Welcome and good evening, everybody. It is 6 o'clock here in the UK, and we bring you a very special edition of DMQs. Now, unless you've been self-isolating in a cave for the last year, you will realise, of course, that the world has been blighted by a global pandemic. And as such, the Danger Club can't meet up in person, as we normally do. So, harnessing the power of technology and proving that actors will not be silenced, we are bringing you this remote DMQs. Now, of course, you have myself here, James Lockhart, coming to you live from Danger Towers. And we have our very own Dungeon Master coming to us from another part of London. Hello, Dan.
We're doing it live!
Yeah, we're doing it live. So this is very exciting.
I'm so excited about this. This
so
is wonderful.
We've really, we've been sort of, racking our brains. This is Dan's brainchild. Well, I think we've all sort of had the idea. It's like, right, what can we do remotely? And, we've got the ability to do this. And obviously the support of all you wonderful Dangerlings who are messaging and saying wonderful things. Thanks, man.
It is so busy in the chat. This is amazing. Hey, Alakar. Hey, Steph. Hey, Blinded Sphinx. Hey, Colin.
Hey, Babel Bay.
Frantic Dare. Matt. Candice. Nostrix. Stu Jackson.
Stu Jackson. Looks like Stu is a Jackson. Now, you have been very, very generous with all of your questions. We have lots of questions to pose at the beginning of things. I think just to catch up for those who don't know, I hope you're all doing well at home, staying safe, staying inside. We're in full lockdown here in the UK. And Dan, how you doing?
I'm good. It's very strange, isn't it? This whole lockdown thing. It's we've been getting used to it gradually. I mean, I haven't seen you in a while, but I've probably spoken to you more than we normally do in our lives.
Yeah.
I am playing a lot of Starfinder right now on Roll. I learned Roll20. We started a game with a few of the Dangerlings and a few of the Danger Club. Oh my God, we're having a good time playing through against the Aeon Throne. On Roll20. It is fantastic.
It has been good. Big up Roll20. We're really enjoying that. It's got the ability to dug out the old webcam and everything. It's been a lot of fun. And I think that generally there's the talk. I've been really pleased with the positivity that everyone's showing and the fact that actually, even though we're facing this worldwide crisis, people are being positive and they're doing good things. And I've been working out and we're doing things like this. And actually, I wonder how many people are gaming with friends online now.
I mean, shout out, we might talk about it more, but let's do it right at the start. I want to shout out to Club right now. So a number of the Dangerlings have gotten together, like some of you are here right now, some of you are in the chat right now, got together to try and organise their own games over Roll20 and other online gaming things while they can't meet up in person. It has been named Club, and it has now grown to the fact that there is a spreadsheet organising games between Dangerlings, and we've had people coming into the server who weren't already on it just to try and organise games. It's amazing. You guys
That's
are fantastic.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. Thanks, guys. Club. And I'd like to think that this is happening across the world, not just our own beloved Dangerlings, but the world over, people are uniting and not letting this get in the way of their D&D or Starfinder or Pathfinder, whatever it is you're playing.
It's excellent. So we haven't done a DMQs in a while, have we? The last one was the one we did with Colin back when we finished Godsmith Heresy. We were supposed to do one after we finished all of the episodes with April Hughes in. Remember those way back then? Uncle Gooden's party and the fake
the Gooden
band.
Avengers.
The Gooden Avengers. We were going to do one like at the end. We normally do one around Christmas, and then we just didn't have time to do one. So we're way behind on this. So we've got a lot to talk about. A lot has happened.
We do. We've got some good puns. I'm liking a pun, Kilted Code. They could have been an orchestra.
Excellent.
I love my puns. So, shall we dive in with a question?
Let's dive in with a question, yes.
Shall we dive in there? So, I'm going to get these questions up here.
Okay. If you want to throw any questions in while we're going, if you want to ask us anything, we're on the Danger Club chat text channel. Throw anything in there and we'll answer it as we go. Let's all join in. Let's participate in this thing.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I think that we should start with a personal question, but not too personal because this does relate very much to Dan. So this is a question from Bad Wolf Bay, 87.
Hey, Steph.
And Hey, Steph. And she has said, has a campaign, D&D or Pathfinder, ever inspired you to want to write a comic about it?
Okay.
You've already written, you're the writer of Moon, or at least you were. So you are a published comic book writer. Has anything you've ever played inspired you to do the same?
It sort of, and weirdly, because I wrote Moon about 10 years ago, and it came out, its 9th anniversary. Actually, today is the 9th anniversary of the release of Moon.
Happy anniversary!
Happy anniversary, Moon. But yeah, my follow-up project to Moon was going to be a sort of a D&D themed, a fantasy themed adventure comic, and I actually started a D&D campaign, a 3.5 campaign, with some friends to try and generate some story for it. Like, I came up with a premise and I ran the campaign to try and come up with some ideas of the setup. And Steve Penfold, the artist from Moon, played in that campaign because he was going to draw the comic, and he hated it.
Steve Penfold hating something. He's a lovely man. But
he didn't like the idea that you would roll a dice and you might not succeed in something. He didn't like there was an element of luck. And he actually had a very, very good idea, which is like, he said that all of the skill checks should be based on trivia. So rather than you having to roll a dice to see if you hit someone, you should draw a trivia card out and you should have to answer a general knowledge question. And if you passed it, then you would hit, which is one of the best ideas for a role-playing game I think I've ever heard of.
Would that be like Trivial D&D or something? I think
it would be.
Yeah.
But it was the weird thing. We ended up not doing it in the end because we wanted to focus on getting Moon finished.
Yeah.
But the weird thing was that the working title for it, we're going to swear on the podcast because we always do. The working title for it was Dragons and Shit, because I wanted it to be like the most sort of just, it's about fantasy stuff kind of title. And then we were like, we can't put out a comic called Dragons and Shit because we can't actually put that on stands.
Yeah.
So it got changed, and it got changed to Dragons and Things, and then we just ditched the idea and did it. But some of you, I'm sure, will
yourself. That's amazing.
Well, no, but some of you will know Dragons and Things is the name of a phenomenal and very successful Pathfinder streaming show in the United States. Really good show. Who some of which are friends of the podcast. Ben, who, from there, I think it is, listens to the show. And if you listen to this, please let us know you've heard this because we love Dragons and Things on the show. So yes, I nearly produced a comic that coincidentally had the same name as a show that I really like now. That is how weird these things are. So yeah, maybe one day, but making comics is a long process, and certainly having worked in the comic industry and having seen the realities of that in terms of the money, it's a lot of work to do. So we'd have to get things in place to make it work.
Is it, I mean, I'm coming from a position that I've never been in that industry. Is it the same as every other artistic endeavour in that the effort is massive and the return is incredibly sketchy?
It can depend. Moon did very well. Moon was one of the most successful indie comics in the UK because Steve had is a great salesman and is a great artist and really and I should say I'm not involved in Beyond the Bunker, who produced Moon, anymore. I set it up and then I sold my rights in it to Steve. He now runs that as a separate company and publishes various books, including Moon. And I imagine they are having a bit of a tricky time at the moment. So if you want to help Steve out, beyondthebunker.com, you can buy. I'm sure you can order a copy of Moon. Or you might drag Steve out of his house to go and post it, and he'll get coronavirus. But but you might help him out financially in the process. So it's a sort of trade-off.
It's a gamble.
It's a gamble. What is? Hang on, we got a copy. Dweezil wants to know any Moon characters going to make it into the DCP. None of them have so far. Maybe I will find a way to get them in there. There are some fun characters in there.
I'm pretty sure that one of the characters in Moon was based on Drum.
There is a character in it based on Drum, yes. One of the characters, Steve draws from what he knows. So he drew a lot of characters based on friends and based on people we knew. So yeah, Drum is in that comic as pretty much as himself, but in a suit, which I don't think I've ever seen Drum in a suit. And I was at his wedding. But he wore a kilt for that and bare ears.
Exactly.
What else do we have?
So it sort of links into Moon in that it is from Candice, aka Musha Suturi. Hi, Candice, who helps out on the Moon. She says, I love the regular show, but I also love the specials that you do, including your new D&D 5e episode. Why, thank you very much. Are there any plans to do more of these with different RPGs? would you consider doing a Starfighter special? Would we, Dan? Would we do that?
I think there's another one about Starfinder in there as well. We've had so many questions about Starfinder since we started running this, since people found out we were running Against the Iron Throne off air. And I should say, I've been really enjoying running a campaign that is not done for air, that I don't have to worry about making it as a show or anything like that.
Yeah.
I really like doing the specials. We've done a few of them, and we do them for sort of different reasons. So we've had sort of like the Plaguestone special, which we did sort of in conjunction with Paizo, because second edition was coming out and we wanted to do something for second edition, and that was a lot of work, but we ended up being really one of the first ever Pathfinder second edition podcasts with that. We put out a podcast the moment the rules came out, which I'm still hugely proud of, and I think a lot of people enjoyed because of that. And then we done our free RPG day one, the We Be Heroes adventure, which was just to celebrate free RPG day because I got the game, and we managed to get everyone together within a couple of days. So we put that out. I like putting out new stuff related to new products when it comes out, or related to new adventures, because it's something that people are interested in at the time. And then our Christmas special, which was just sort of some fun. And Sandstone Secret was similar. Sandstone Secret, which wasn't really in conjunction with Paizo. It's just I got the book and I liked the classes and I wanted to do it. And they've all been sort of similar because they've all been within our world. So all of those games, even the ridiculous Christmas special, they're all kind of canon for the Danger Club podcast. They all take place in Golarion, take place thing. And then we've got the most recent one, which is the D&D special, which is sort of different because Wizards of the Coast came to us effectively and said, would you make some D&D content? And or if you make some D&D content, we will promote it on our social media. Which, when Wizards of the Coast say that, of course you're going to do it, because it's going to bring new people to the podcast to listen in on it. It was a lot of work to do it, and it was the fact that just because of timing things around the way the main show was going and the way our lives were, and Drum having a child, and the world going into lockdown and all of these things, we ended up kind of recording it it was a 3-week run where we did it was 2.5 weeks, I think, and within 2.5 weeks we did 6 episodes of the regular show, we did 6 episodes of the D&D special, and we did 3 episodes of a new special which is coming up to do with the main show, which is linked to the main show. So we put together an astonishing amount of content in a very short amount of time. So it was a lot of work.
Loved every second of it.
But yeah, I'm up for doing some other stuff. In terms of other RPGs, there is stuff I'd like to play. I'm a big fan of the old World of Darkness RPGs. I love Hunt of the Reckoning. That's the sort of stuff that I started off playing. So it would be fun to do those. But I'm also kind of, unless there's kind of, I don't want to say a business reason, but unless there's sort of a reason for the podcast to do a special that isn't linked to the main story, then it's hard to find the time for it at the moment, because I kind of want everything we do to feed into this massive world that we're building, this our own adventure path in Golarion that we're telling. And I like the idea that kind of the stuff that happened out in the desert with Horace and Slick and Flash Gordon, which I'm sure Ross still hasn't listened to, by the way.
Really?
I don't want to call him out on the chat. Listen to the Sandstone Secret, you bastard.
It's really good.
But yeah, I like the idea that takes place in our world. Those characters exist in our world.
It is nice. I think definitely the sort of Marvel-esque linking everything into the world is definitely a good way to go, because not least it gives us backup characters just in case MZ happens, which we won't talk about. Let's not talk about that. But I'd want to ask you a question. So we have been, as you mentioned earlier, playing this Starfighter campaign in our free time to get over the isolation blues.
Yes.
How have you been feeling about that? Because personally, I've really enjoyed playing something that's not fantasy based. Now, of course, it's all fantasy based, but I mean in the kind of Robert E. Howard kind of fantasy based esque. How's it felt to you playing a more futuristic world? Because it is still Golarion.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if Fulton turned up, but
it's still the same. It is the same universe. I really like Starfinder. There's a reason that I'm such a sort of Paizo obsessive in terms of the game.
You?
Is that And weirdly, it's not because of the system particularly. I do like the system because I'm a learner, and I like a system that has just infinite depth, and that I can constantly get things wrong and then research. And like some of you guys on the chat will know that the first thing I do when a new episode comes out is I go on the chat and I find out the rules we got wrong, because I like finding out about that. But the main thing is that Paizo's creative division are incredible. Like the worlds that they create are amazing, and the Starfinder universe is no different to that. The Starfinder universe is also really rich. And as soon as we jumped into like we're playing against the Aeon Throne, and the sort of the brief that they do for all of the Starfinder adventure paths is that they're all based on a trope, effectively, of sort of science fiction. So there's one that is a war. There's Attack of the Swarm, which is like a war movie, which is like Starship Troopers. There's another one which is a threefold conspiracy, which is like the X-Files. And against the Aeon Throne is kind of like rebels against the Empire. It's that kind of. It's all against an evil empire, and being the plucky underdogs. And you get that feeling straight away. And you get the feeling of these laser blasts going off, and the fact we're doing it on Roll20, and we can put some music out there and stuff. Starship combat is a little clunky. That took a bit to go, but we kind of, bearing in mind, we came up with the idea to do that one day, and we played it the following afternoon. Like we all learned that game in one evening, effectively. And one thing that Aeon Throne does is the very first encounter of the adventure path is starship combat, which is the most complicated part of Starfinder. So it's maybe not the best way to start off. It's maybe not how I would start off anyone's first game, is going straight into starship combat. But it's a lovely game. I want to play much more of it. And shout out to Nostrix, if he's still in the chat in there, who is an amazing, there he is, he's an amazing GM, and had taught me and Ross to play Starfinder at UK Games Expo last year, and then ran another game for us at PaizoCon UK, and just got that love for it going on. It's a wonderful game.
It is.
Support your local Pathfinder and Starfinder societies. Not now. Don't go near them now. Stay indoors. But support them remotely.
Yeah, check out.
There's great gaming there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's next, James?
So, Dweezil asked, you aren't giving up on Pathfinder, are you?
Are we giving up on Pathfinder? No. Don't worry about that. We are not giving up on Pathfinder.
Hooray!
The main show is always going to be Pathfinder. We started this as a Pathfinder podcast, and the story we're telling, it kind of has to be, because it takes place in Galarian, and we've been telling this story for nearly 100 episodes right now. We are on the road to 100, baby. Hashtag road to 100.
Catchy.
And we're only, it's good, isn't it? And we've done this, so we're only at level 5. I may be a little stingy with the experience, but we've only played
so stingy.
We've only played 3
Is my mic still
on? Plus a few homebrew ones. I got a reminder the other day that we did the vote for our 3rd module, which ended up being Master the Living God. We did that vote a year ago. So we spent virtually a year playing around in Tamarin and over Master the Living God. So we've got a lot more stories still to tell. And anyone who is up to date, I'm trying not to give too many spoilers about everything, but like anyone who is up to date on the main show knows that things are really starting to turn into a bigger story right now. It's really starting to blow up, and we've got a lot more of that story to tell. And we're going to be using Pathfinder to tell that. I'm not saying we won't play some other stuff. Honestly, if Wizards of the Coast asked us to do another little special, and we're going to promote it because of that, I reckon we'd probably do that, because because it's good numbers. How are you guys? Who has listened to the D&D special? Who is the first episode from this week? Shout out on the chat if you enjoyed it, because it was really responses. An experiment. Some of you have it. So, okay.
Okay, so that's some good positivity coming through there.
That's a lot of positivity there. That's good.
And then MC
apart from Colin
giving a laughing face. Splendid. Thank you, MC. Good support.
Because it was like, because we've done with the specials, like I say, we've done them for different reasons, but it's always really been, the reason has always really been because we're going to play something that we know you guys will be interested in, because it's new, or because it's interesting, or because it's tied to the main story. And this is the first time we've done something, because a company has asked us to do it, and we were pretty sure that you would enjoy it. But it was just a real sort of departure. Never enough jazz. Yeah, if you are listening to it, stick with it. Like episode 3 of the D&D thing. I'm not spoiling anything, but episode 3 is a Ross tour de force. He's so funny in that episode. Yeah. I cry laughing. Actually, Monday's episode of the main show he is as well. It's a good time to be a Ross fan right now.
This does bring me on to a question from Nostrix. Thank you about that, which kind of links into everything we've been talking about, so we might as well add this an element. But will you do other PF2 specials for books that introduce new ancestries or classes or other cool mechanics to the system? Bring back Jam Jam. That was Nostrix saying that, not me. I've actually become very fond of Jam Jam. He's really cute in a horrible sort of way.
I love Jam Jam. Jam Jam's one of my favourite characters in this whole thing. Speaking of, everyone's got favourite characters. Leaksy, I can't bring Chappie LaRue back. Chappie LaRue had the most horrible and final death twice.
Yes. He really did. I think even some Dallas would struggle to bring back that guy.
Oh no, there's rage now. Maybe we'll go to the afterlife. Maybe we'll go to the boneyard and we'll bring Chappie back.
Maybe.
Poor Chappie LaRue. What an awful day he had. He probably wasn't even meant to be at work that day. I think we will do more specials. Again, it all comes down to time. I wanted to try and do one for the playtest of the new classes when that was being run. So the classes that are coming out in the summer for the Advanced Player's Guide. The Witch, the Swashbuckler, the Investigator, and what's the other one? The Oracle. They're the new classes that are coming out in the summer. And there was a playtest for those in January, and I really wanted to get a little short adventure together, but it just didn't fit in with the recording schedule. So we thought best to leave it and then wait until the book is nearly out. Yeah. And then we'll see if we can do something with it around then. Basically, we want to do something if it's going to be of interest to you. And there's as entertaining as it is for us to put time in and play something which is maybe not super current, I think you guys would rather we put the time into doing really good episodes of the main show. So if we can fit it into our schedule, then that's something that we'll do. Maybe that's something we can do with more remote stuff.
And I think, I think we are but human as well. And obviously it is the challenges of getting people around the table, as we mentioned earlier about Drum and his family, and we've all got stuff going on. I think there's a danger of over-diversification. And like you say, we don't want to take away from that core, the core campaign. So
yeah. Okay, let me grab a couple out of the chat while we're doing it, since we're live.
Yeah, definitely. Let's grab it. What do you want to answer? This is your DMQs, brought to you live from Danger Towers and somewhere in London.
Where have we got? Mad Turnip. If players want to change things up, not just me killing them. I've only killed one character, all right.
But you make so much of it, Dan. Oh my goodness.
I know I do.
Sorry, Colin.
Would you like to see the Danger Club as a continuing, evolving roster, or would you stop and do a new campaign a la Critical Role? We're only going to stop this story when the story finishes, and the story is not necessarily the story of these 5 characters, as we learned from MZ leaving the story and the story carrying on with Bubba. So there is certainly space for new characters to come in and out. Certainly there is a point with it's like that. You're a classicist, James. What's the ship? Is it Jason the Argonaut ship, where every single piece and every plank is replaced on the ship? And it's like, is it still the same ship if you replace every constituent part of it?
I mean, thank you for building me up as a classicist there, but I use the analogy of Trigger's broom, which for those of you who don't know the show, it's from a very popular sitcom in the UK called Only Fools and Horses, and there's a character called Trigger who says he's had the same broom for 20 years, and he's had 10 new heads and 13 new staff. It's still the same broom, and I think it is very much that case.
Yeah,
isn't it?
That's at what point is the Danger Club still the same broom if we replace every part?
Trigger's broom's getting some love on the chat.
Everyone loves Trigger's broom.
Yeah, Ship of Theseus. Well done, Nostrix. Well done,
Theseus. That's
Theseus.
It.
Yeah,
but yeah. I like new characters and I like changing stuff up. And you know what? Listen to Monday's show.
Yeah,
exactly. That's all I'm going to say.
And I think, and just linking into that, because I think you've answered it really well, but nobody's too precious about sort of stepping away in terms of characters, not actual the players, but in terms of characters, because who knows what might happen, and we want to keep it fresh and interesting, and if sometimes you might get tired of playing a character. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
You never know. Do you have a backup, James? Here you go. Christian, do you have a backup character in your mind?
Well, I mean, probably drawing on the specials. Like I said earlier, they're quite useful for us because it is all the same world. You can be like, oh, I might play him or play them or whatever else like that. But there is always the temptation to come up with a new character, especially if Pathfinder's just released, like you say, it's one of the new classes. That could be an interesting, rather than having a special for witches, actually bring in a witch. No, I haven't left in a while.
Alakar wants to know, previously Dangerlings were allowed to vote on which adventure will be played next. It hasn't happened in a while. With Masks being over, are we going to go full homebrew? So the plan is, because we're on the road to 100 right now, we are effectively homebrew for this section. There is definitely a plan as to what episode 100 is going to be about. Some of it may already have been recorded. And maybe one day we will tell the story of the incredibly cursed episode 100 recording session.
Which needs its own backstory recorded, I think.
It really does.
That was a day.
That was quite a day. But yes, we're running up to that. And then once we're beyond that, the plan is to go back to the voting on to vote on modules. Yeah, so we are going to get back to that once we've gone through some stuff.
I love involving you guys. I know all the other members of the Danger Club are the same. Like, we love that kind of, you've actually got a say in what happens and what we do, and also, as Dan said earlier, we want it to be interesting and something you really want to listen to. So if you all vote for a particular module, well, there you go. It's great to be able to do that and then to look at Dan's furrowed brow as he tries to work out how he can possibly put that into the overarching narrative. But that's great.
It's crazy to think how different our story could have been if the votes had gone different ways. I can't even remember the different votes that were on hand.
There was the one in the desert.
Because I think because it's possible we could have never gone to Kermarga and never had that amazing stuff. For the last one, we could have gone to Belkson, and there was one about orcs in Belkson, which I think would have fitted. Or we could have ended up going to Assyrian, which would have fitted in, I think, with the sort of stuff we were doing. But would have been Assyrian is hundreds of miles from Tamarin and doesn't involve Razmir at all. And so our story by that point would have been completely different. It would have, we'd have still been following some similar threads. We'd still have been creating this wider story. So it's mad when you think of the different ways that our story could go. And I love that I have really no idea what is going to happen in the Danger Club podcast. I know what is happening in the world of Golarion, in our version of Golarion right now, but I don't know how that will interact with our story as we go through it. And that's a wonderful thing. I love that the Dangerlings are part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And highlighting how we all get involved in it, we've got a question from Stu. Yes. Do any of the players or you as DM get emotionally affected by any of the events as I have? And personally, absolutely. I think anyone who does role-playing can't help but be involved with the characters that you grow to love and to know, the party that you form and things like this. And Many's the game we've sat back and gone, blimey, that's, a lot, because you get so swept up in the moment.
Yeah.
And how about you, Dan? How I think for you it's slightly different because obviously you're part of the party, but you're also not. So how have you? I mean, we joke a lot about MZ and things like this, but how affected have you been in the past about things that have happened to the group, largely based on decisions that you might have made?
Yeah, it's funny because it all kind of comes rushing back in sometimes because we have the way we record and the kind of the personalities we put across when we're recording is kind of antagonistic. I am the DM, the evil DM trying to kill you, and that's the kind of the gag that we go with. But that is really a heightened version of ourselves. I'm not really that sadistic, Scott's not that angry. Colin's not that cool. Colin is that cool.
Colin is that cool. Yeah.
Cool. But we kind of it's always a heightened version of ourselves when we do the show, and we kind of do that sort of thing, and then we finish the recording, and then it all kind of reality kind of comes back in, and especially when it's been a big one, like when MZ died. The air just went out of the room after that episode. Yeah. None of us wanted to record again. We were just devastated. And similarly with the episodes about when Fulton finds out about his brother, it's just whoa.
That was some powerful stuff. And full credit to both Ross and Colin and the way that those moments played out were really great. And funnily enough, I don't want to dwell too much on MZ because obviously he has been the focus of a lot of attention just because he's been the only death in the party. But Blinded Sphinx has written, will we ever find out what was happening in MZ's dream now that he's dead?
Well, we may well find out that. So
I'm curious.
MZ has a backstory, which I know of, which I've read, which Colin and I had a look at, and there is a reason why MZ was a part of that group. That reason has not gone away, so maybe MZ's past will become relevant to the Danger Club in the future. That is all I can say. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, just drawing away from sort of spoilers, because you're right to do so. This brings up a question from Jash, who says, do you take part in the club's WhatsApp group? And how much of their planning and discussion does honestly affect your planning and storytelling? Just how meta are you, Dan?
I didn't even know you guys had a WhatsApp group. Like, we have a Slack group that is basically for running the business side of the podcast. We basically use it for organising records, for kind of tweeting out, sending out links that we want everyone to retweet. Scott will send those around to everyone because he does the Twitter most of the time. Or like, I'll do rules clarification. Sometimes I'll do like a rules dump for everyone, and I'll be like, okay, so here's a thing that you do. Or I'll give you, and I try and give you hints as well, because I know that sometimes some of you, you don't necessarily have time to optimize your character. If I've had a bit of time, because this is what I do for kicks, if I've been looking through the rulebook and looking at the druid class or the wizard or something, I sometimes will be on there and be like, you can do this and this if you put these abilities together. That's the thing you could do in the next game. Or if there's a tough fight coming up, I'll be like, here's a few things that you might want to read up on. Here's some chapters that maybe will help you through this. We do little bits like that. But the WhatsApp group, I was not aware was a thing until the D&D special came up. I didn't know that you guys had a secret chat that you had been going through without me.
It's not necessarily a secret WhatsApp chat. Because WhatsApp chats they're about as common as clouds. There are millions and millions. We're all members of thousands if you use that app. So they tend to be very specific to something. And probably a lesson in why we shouldn't use those is because of something recently we did where Dan had written this beautiful bit of backstory that we were all supposed to operate on. And then we as players totally ignored that and wrote our own incredibly silly little backstory. And then the look on Dan's face when we sort of started introducing this backstory, and it's like, I mean, did you look at the thing I put on Slack? And we're like, oh yeah, right, cool, yeah.
It's because you were literally like, I was like, come up with your own things, but you are there for. We can't talk about it too much because it's the stuff that hasn't come out yet. But I was like,
we can't give details.
I was like, but fundamentally, you are here to impart this piece of information, and then the story can progress. And you all basically just hit a brick wall, and we're like, well, I don't know what to do. And I was like, do you want to maybe reread the notes? Like, I love this massive long story that you've told me.
There was then a 2-minute pause while everyone just got their phones out. It was like, oh yeah, you said, oh that's right, yeah, we have read that. Oh right, cool. But we tend to be quite open about stuff we do. There's no need to be kind of secret. So this is a question from Alakar. This is hot off the press. Yes. He said, I know this has been asked before, but you guys are almost 100 eps in now. Woo, 100 eps.
Yeah.
And have a really good following. Yes, we do. You guys are amazing. Any plans to monetize and let us support the show?
Yes. We have a meeting next week with the Danger Club, with all of us, where we're going to meet up online and we're going to talk properly about what the plan is for that. But yes, the idea is, assuming that you guys would like to help support us and help us do more things, because there is certainly, like, we're not in this to make money. We know we're not going to make money from podcasting. There's very few people who do. But having a bit of income would help us do things like replace some of our technical equipment that could do with being replaced, and just do little things like maybe, help Drum with childcare so he can get to more recordings and we can do more specials and things like that. So the plan is to have a look at either maybe a Patreon. That seems to be the sort of the standard. Ko-fi is another option as well. And maybe some merchandising, although obviously that's harder at the moment to send any actual physical stuff out. Monetizing involves its own sort of hurdles. We were going to have to, we have to do it officially, which means we effectively have to become a business. So I have to go and talk to a bank and Companies House and things like that. I know people will and I've got people on who've said they'll help sort that out. And we have to sort of change the way we do a few things, but also it means the stuff we would want to offer, that requires some help. The standard model for if you want to do a Patreon show is to have a second podcast, which is behind a paywall. So you pay a monthly fee and you get another podcast. And that revenue allows you to record more, and it allows you to have that second show. And I think for a lot of us, that would be the dream, because we want to make more content. We want to make more stuff, which would be really great if we can do that. The trouble is that you can't monetize a podcast based on somebody else's IP without their permission, effectively. So you need to be an officially licensed show. Like, we couldn't just make a Pathfinder show and charge you money for it. We would need to actually get permission from Paizo to do that. We need to become an official podcast. And likewise, if we wanted to do a D&D show, or we wanted to do anything like that, you'd need permission from the publisher, which is totally fair because it's their IP. And they're very generous with their community use policies. I think we have a good relationship with Paizo. We're building a relationship with Wizards as well. Certainly any help you guys can do with shouting us out, and you already do. You talk about us all the time, and it's amazing. Anything that bigs us up, because we are one of the bigger Pathfinder shows outside of the US right now. And I think, I don't want to brag, but yeah, I think we're pretty good in terms of what we put out, and certainly in terms of our amazing community, we're really good. The plan was for me to go to Gen Con. I'm supposedly going to Gen Con. Hey, Alucard, he's supposed to be sleeping on my hotel room when we go to Gen Con. I was going to go to Gen Con and try and make stuff happen, basically, on that front. That was a big plan. Obviously, that is all up in the air at the moment. It is possible that could all get called off if things don't improve in the US. It is possible that could get called off too late for me to cancel my flights, and Alucard and I will be spending a romantic weekend in Indianapolis with no convention happening, which will still be charming, I'm sure. We'll go to the Motor Speedway, we'll take a long walk.
I would want live updates from that, from your hotel room in Minneapolis. Tweets. All the live tweets, I want all of that. So, we've got, Steph has sent a question in for me, but also Nostrix. When is the GSPCA coming to rescue Jin? Well, the thing is, I've got a big beef with Pathfinder, as you know, and the whole drain familiar term. I mean, it's such negative language in terms, and it conjures up these horrible images of. It always reminds me of the obviously the Dark Crystal is very hot at the moment, but the original film where the Skeksis is like, yes, and they drain that young gelfling. Like, that's what you think. Whereas actually not. I think of it more as a sort of like, it's a Pokemon kind of thing. And there's so much better language you could use. But also, returning to the question, Jin, for a long time, and I might make this long because this is Dan's questions really, was Velda's only friend. So actually, he loves Jin very, very much and treats him very, very well. And in terms of if you could change the name of drainability for Jin, what would you change it to? This is a question like, shout out some other terms that aren't quite so negative. I mean, like infuse would be better. Sort of, empower, all these sort of like strong positive words, not the drain, leech, it's just dreadful.
The wording on the drain thing it's so unfortunate because it's all based on the drain bonded item.
Yeah, so exactly. It's not really referring to a live animal.
No, like as a default, you have your bonded item, which is like a staff, and it's called drain item, and it's literally like draining magical energy out of your staff, which makes sense. And then if you take the familiar, it literally, it's like one line, and it says you can use the drain ability on your familiar as per the staff. It just makes it sound so much more horrible than I'm sure it's meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, because you just want to cuddle or give him a little. I always imagine like tickling him on the chin and boop. Oh yeah, boop familiar snoot. That's what we want. Frantic Sock. You should write to Pathfinder and get them to change that goddamn title because it's dreadful, dreadful. But we do have. I want to return now to DMQs because I want to sort of return to the point. So, do you guys have a map that all the players can see in DCHQ? Sorry, you do a great job of laying out the battlefield verbally, but can the players see a layout?
They cannot.
No,
we
do
do
not.
Everything theatre of the mind, and part of that's because how we've always played it, because we started playing in a pub where we didn't have space to lay any of that stuff out. And I'm old school. I grew up playing it in playgrounds and playing it in back rooms of pubs and little tables and not really having space for any of that sort of stuff. So using miniatures to me is not something I've ever really done. I'm very kind of I'm very lo-fi in the sort of setup that I want. You know, I have as little stuff as possible. I'm not somebody who wants a full set and candles and things. I don't even use a GM screen when I'm playing because I can't do now because there's not space on the table. Get me a desk, James. But the rest
Not getting you a desk. I don't know what happened to that nice chair. I found this
a very fine chair.
Old nice chair. Somebody left it in the hall. I live in lots of other people, and then it went.
That was the recordings where I was really small, wasn't it? Because I was hitting on the table. It was really low.
It was.
Yeah, so we do it all theatre plan, and I think that works quite well for the podcast because it means everyone has to describe very visually what they're doing, and I have to really lay out the room because I have to remember that you can't see the map as a listener. So I want us to have to do that description, and I want us to have to get it really visual because if we can see what's happening in our minds, then hopefully you can see what's happening. That gets a bit trickier at higher levels when things like line of sight and area of effect and auras and stuff like that with Pathfinder. When high level play starts coming in, maps start becoming a bit more useful. And having experimented with Roll20 on this Starfinder campaign, it is something that I'm thinking about. It means everybody at the table having their own laptop, effectively, or a device that they can play it on. And then I would run the map through that and everyone would be able to see it. That's maybe something for the future. We would need the finances to be able to do it, and we would need to know whether it was definitely the right thing. And I'm still not 100% sure that is the way we've done it, because we've played first edition campaigns up well into the high teens level wise without ever using a map, other than for really specific stuff. So I'm not necessarily sure we need it, and I quite like that we're quite visual.
No, exactly. And I think you make a very good point that it does force us to describe what we're doing, because I found that even just the short time we've been playing Roll20, you do so much while other people are talking with the tools. So you can go tick, 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 and you can work out line of sight or movement or stuff like this. And it means that when it comes to your turn, yes, it makes it streamlined, but all that kind of thought process and questions is gone because, I've already done it.
And asking if it makes remembering distances hard. It does. But you have to kind of apply a couple of rules to it of kind of, you sort of simplify it to stuff that is sort of short range, medium range, long range, really. And that gives you an idea of exactly where the ranges are. And to an extent you also do, is it fun, is it cool to apply to it? Does it make sense storyline-wise that this guy is probably close enough to get in that relatively short-range spell? Yeah, then he's probably in range. For some things, I have had a map in front of me where I have been marking things out, where it's been I did it quite a lot in Godsmith Ossuary, where it's quite cramped and you're in a dungeon, so it's quite important to know where everyone's standing for flanking and stuff like that. So I did do it for that a little bit. And I've usually got a bit of an idea which squares people are in. But yeah, generally, you can cheat this stuff. If you've got a good group of players who don't mind and who are focused more on the story and what's exciting rather than the actual specifics of ranges, then you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think returning to a more sort of broad aspect of the game.
Yes.
So we've got, just out of fun, what is your personal favourite monster out of the Pathfinder bestiary?
Let me get my phone, because I made Nostrix asked this, and
he did, yeah.
So I sat in bed this morning with a coffee and started listing some of my favourite monsters. We did this actually on the Godsmith one. Colin asked me this question about sort of first edition monsters, but I wanted to pick out some stuff that's in second edition that I really like. So I really like Aeons and I really like Proteans. We played before we started doing the podcast. We played a module called Beyond the Vault of Stars, I think it's called, which is a 3.5 Pathfinder module where you go to Axis, which is the city of law, and it's amazing. It's where Abadar's vault is, which has got a perfect copy of everything in the world. It's where the spire, Pharasma's spire that goes up to the boneyard. It's where that is. It's this incredible kind of place ruled over by these beings of pure law who are robots, and there's all sorts of different crazy lawful robots wandering around there, and there's are they called arbiters or heralds or something? Somebody will know this, but there's these little guys who are like little round mechanical clockwork balls with an eye, and they've got little wings and they fly around, and they're everywhere. And we had one of those, I think we did, Baxter, and it joined the party, which was really fun. But they were just really good because they're just absolutely uncompromising, focused on the law all the time rather than on anything else. That makes it really interesting.
Yeah.
We also had the best player death we've ever had in that campaign, where because where you ended up at the River Styx, and Drummond walked over and found a ferryman standing there in the boat. The ferryman beckoned him, and Drum was like, "All right, I'll get in the boat." And Drum got in the boat and sailed away with the ferryman.
Yeah.
And I just had to take his character sheet from him.
He didn't.
And then the group had to, they'd done a weeks-long quest for Pharasma, and at the end of it, as their reward, they had to just be like, "If we give you all the money back, can we have Drum back, please?"
Can we get Drum back?
Got Drum back. I mean, you got no reward.
I mean, I'm not saying.
And the proteins are great because they're just creatures of chaos, and they're not evil. They just want to mess with the world. They're like the Joker, and they want to set all of these plots in place. And if you're the GM, especially in a long-running campaign, they're really fun because they can do a small thing, or they can tempt the players in one small way that sets up just a sequence of events that screws them over months in the future, and it's just wonderful to play with. Shout out to a couple of second edition monsters that I really like just mechanically.
I'm going to let you do this quickly because we're running slightly
we've
short time.
We've got to go on. The Faceless Stalker is fantastic. I really like the Faceless Stalker in second edition because it's a shape changer, but it can squeeze. If it makes a squeeze check, it gets to move at full speed, so it can do the Terminator 2 thing where it basically walks over and just squeezes through some bars and goes through the other thing, which I love.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of the art for the nymph in second edition because it's one of the
yes.
first times that I've seen that in a role-playing book where it isn't just pure cheesecake art.
Nice.
In most versions, in old version, I think sort of some of the books for 3.5 are the best role-playing books ever made. But the art for the nymph for that, and in first edition Pathfinder, are very much like some of the brief has been like, draw somebody you would like to have sex with. Whereas in this, they look creepy and they look weird and they look alien, and I really like that. That's what I want from it. So there you go. There's a bundle of monsters that I really like.
Kind of like the elves in Divinity 2, if you've played it.
Yes.
Nice,
they're weird eyes.
Yeah, just weird eyes and weird. Now we're going to go slightly off-piece. We're going to have some more fun, a bit more sort of like nebulous questions. Yeah, exactly. So we have, now this is a serious question actually. Being part of an acting community has lent itself to having friends to pop on as great guests, and has lent itself to the overall production of the podcast. If you all weren't actors, do you think you would still have created a podcast? Well, no, first of all, of course, we wouldn't have started this unless we all worked together as actors. But do you think we'd have all started a podcast if we weren't actors?
I mean, with the coronavirus lockdown, everybody has started a podcast.
Oh, my God, yes. Or a video diary or something like a GoFundMe.
So it's probably inevitable. It's hard to say. It certainly would have been a lot harder, and I think it's one of the things that makes us... that sets us apart is that we are all actors and that we are able to and improvisers and really good. You guys are very funny people. It's the reason that I've loved GMing for you for so many years, because we make all these great stories together. So I'm not sure if we would have. I don't think it would have really occurred to us to do it, or we would have been doing it. It wouldn't be quite the same. But certainly having access to so many just really, really good performers. Like, we post it up all the time, but big up Rachel Henley and April Hughes for their cameos on the show, because they've been so good. James and I were meant to be seeing April's play yesterday, and it got cancelled because of everything, which was a real shame because she's a fantastic actor.
She is.
But they were so good, and we're going to come up. It's been kind of all over the place storyline wise, so it's been hard to get guests in at the moment. But I think we're due soonish to try and get somebody new in.
Absolutely,
who we can get as a guest.
Well, speaking of that, we have a question. Is there an actor you're a fan of who you would love to have on to voice a character if it were possible? Now, personally, if it was a stars in the sky kind of question, I would love to have John Lithgow come in and voice a character, because I have enjoyed him and his amazing talents. He's an incredible actor for many, many years. Yeah. Obviously, you choose to answer it as you wish. Do you want it someone who's realistic or someone just complete craziness? In fact, let's have both.
I tell you who I think is a tremendous voice actor and who's been a real influence on me.
Colin wants Idris Elba. I mean, he's in everything. He probably would agree to it, to be honest, but yeah.
Idris Elba's already been on our show. He was that guy in the carnivore. Remember my amazing Idris Elba impression? It was so good. It was like he was in the room.
Yeah, it really was, yeah.
No, so I would have, and this will make more sense to UK Dangerlings, I think. And although, Blackadder is a big thing, I would have Tony Robinson.
Oh, really?
Who is a tremendous actor. You will know him mostly as Baldric from Blackadder, but he's done a lot of things. Made Marion and the Merry Men, which
I was going to say,
which is
loved it.
Seminal show here in the UK. But he also did a couple of shows when we were very young, which were on children's TV here in the UK called there was one called Fat Tulip, there was one called Blood and Honey, and they were storytelling shows, and he would just it was just him telling stories. And then later on, he's the guy he was the voice actor. It was him, and then later on, I think Nigel Planer did it. But he did the narration for the Terry Pratchett Discworld novels, the abridged versions, which I used to go and get all the cassettes of from the libraries, and just rip through that. And I've listened to most of those just through listening to the Tony Robinson one. So he is, to me, in a lot of ways, the voice of fantasy, and certainly for common folk. Whenever you're meeting like random people in the street, in my head, I'm always doing a bit of a Tony Robinson voice for it. Yeah. So I think that would be my pie in the sky. Pie in the Shire.
Maybe we won't do the realistic one because that's putting people on the spot, isn't it? But
who do we know who's famous? I think April's the most famous friend we have.
Pretty much, but we do. We love getting guests on, and hopefully we'll have more for you to enjoy in the future because it always spices things up, and I think it really adds a really good element and a lot of fun.
I'd love to have somebody from like another big podcaster, somebody from Dragons and Things, somebody from Glass Cannon, from Critical Role, for something like that would be great.
Yeah,
someone from the community.
I mean, you'd certainly be onto a winner, wouldn't you? Especially Critical Role came on your.
We would,
your
but
podcast.
and we love working with other podcasts. We did. If you've never heard our guest spot on Power Word Roll, great podcast. We did a guest thing on there.
Wonderful people.
Dragon Meat came out start of this year. That was really good. And is he still in the chat? I think is Stu still there? Stu's still there. I guessed it on the very first
Stu's still
few.
there.
Of course, Stu's there. So there's he's typing right now.
Yeah.
Tales from the 20 Side. Tales from the 20 Side is a podcast that Stu Jackson produced, and I'm in the first 3 episodes of it, and it's the first time I ever got to play in a game of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and I had so much fun. Those episodes are really good. Go and listen to them. They're really fun.
Absolutely, and I think we are starting to come to the end of our time. I think we could run a little bit over because we've had a couple of technical problems, so we can go a little bit long. Got a very important question here, which is, what have you got against lamps? Or is it just James's lamp you have it in for? Seriously hates my lamp. I'm gonna take a picture of my lamp and put it on the social media so you can see my lamp. It's a lovely lamp. It's a nice lamp. Dan hates lamps. He hates it.
I need a t-shirt that says Dan hates lamp. I'm an expressive GM. I wave my hands a lot. Your lamp is too close. That's the only reason for it. Get me a desk. This won't happen.
You stop at the desk. You're not having a desk. I've moved the table gradually more and more at an angle, and you still hit the lamp. Oh my god.
The lamp will not escape me. Do more questions. Let's quick fire some stuff. Let's
quick fire some stuff.
Let's answer as much as we can. I've had a bourbon now. I want to answer as many as possible.
Oh my
goodness!
Is fun. Okay, so how prepared were you for the DC to go completely off piste and maybe try and take over the cult, become proper cult members, or maybe even head off to Razmiran to take on the living god themselves, or something even more insane?
Oh,
it's a question from
goodness.
Stu.
Yeah, that went all over the place. And someone on the chat during the show asked, like, did you expect Master Living God to take that long? And I really didn't know, because it's such an open adventure. I love Master Living God because it sets up the cult. It kind of says, you can just attack the cult if you want, but here's what you should try and steer your players to do, which is what he did, which is joining the cult and infiltrating them. And once you're in, it gives you the routine of the cult and how it operates, and it throws little challenges at you, like the fight in the yard and the baker and the people pickpocketing outside, and little things that will test your players' morality and test how far they're willing to go. But really, once you're in, you can spend as long as you want as part of that cult, just sort of working on things and gradually picking things apart and changing stuff, and some of the stuff that happened there was great. I love the way you brought down Krant. Krant's one of my favourite NPCs that we had, because he's so awful and so horrible, and so innocent
of what we managed to get him on.
Yeah,
he actually didn't do any of that stuff.
No, he was sort of innocent, but he was also he was enough of a terrible person that he still deserved all of the awful things that happened to him, which sort of made it really fun and really comical. So it could have just gone on and on. And likewise, you could have gone, let's go to Rasmussen. And if we'd done that, even though we're sort of trying to make a narrative and we're trying to find ways to fit these modules in, I think we still could have fitted it in a way that tells the story of the cult going to Rasmussen. And you are certainly not done with the Cult of the Living God. If you think that you've gotten away with all of this, you are very much mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly tweaked that nose.
Oh, I will be talking personally to Jason Bullman at some convention this year about how we get them to come back at you for this.
Definitely. And now we've got a couple of earthy questions coming in.
Yes.
So we have, first of all, which bourbon are you drinking?
Which bourbon am I drinking? I'm drinking some Woodford Reserve. Thank you very much. It's left over from Christmas.
Nice choice. I'm going to get Dan talking. I'm going to grab my own bottle of bourbon.
Are you going to make an old fashioned?
No.
Ask me a question off the list, and then you can make an old fashioned.
Well, that's what I was going to do. I wasn't just going to disappear halfway. No, I'm joking.
It's like being on the air with Melvin Bragg. Right.
Melvin Black.
Melvin Black.
So we've got this. I mean, I'm not sure this question is going to be long enough. This is from our very own Colin. If the DCP was a bag of crisps, what would it be?
What, Colin? Ask a better question. We've got a whole list. The Dangerlings have been asking questions all day. There's definitely some in the email I've sent you. Like, there's definitely a better question than that.
But just while I'm finding that question, what would it be? What bag of crisps would it be? I think it'd be
prawn
a fairly
cocktail, because you stink.
Oh, this is getting. I think someone's had too much bourbon. Prawn
I'll tell you when I've had enough.
I think, do you know what? I think it would be one of those new sort of Walker's Max kind of chicken wings, hot, spicy, take you by surprise. They're full of chunk. They make you feel satisfied and also kind of naughty, and they leave your mouth burning. That would be the Danger Club. But we do have a question from Robin Guyver, which has come through here.
Yes.
So if the game world magically began to run itself, what character would you roll to join the Danger Club as a player yourself? What do they need, and what do you want to play? And this is assuming we'd let you join the club.
I mean, what do you need? You need a cleric. Let's be honest with you.
We do need a cleric.
Right, so characters I would like to play. You can hear a lot of them in the Sandstone Secret because I made all of the characters for that everyone ended up playing. And a lot of them were characters that I would really like to have played myself. Slickly Bickles, as he ended up being called, the Hobgoblin Hell Knight was a build that I'd been wanting to play for ages because I think he's really, really fun. A Cleric of Asmodeus who is neutral, so he's not evil. He's a Hell Knight, but but he's not quite as in line morally with all of them, so he's got this sort of absolute morality, but he's not evil.
Hell Knight's so metal.
I think the Hell Knights are so Pathfinder. But then Colin did such a great job with him that no one could ever be slick now. And Flash Gordon was that a little bit the Leshy Paladin because I really wanted to play a Leshy, and then I did in Tales from the 20 side when we played that. I finally got a chance to actually to play a Leshy, and it was tremendous fun. I even took the harmlessly cute trait because that's just really fun. And weirdly, the one we didn't get to play in that because we didn't have 4 players, which was a lizard folk, and it was a Magambian sorcerer using the divinity spell pool. The Magambian are really interesting. They mix Arcana and Primal, so they have multiple types of magic that they use, and they're very Jedi. They're very kind of about balance and peace, but they're also and knowledge, but they're also really powerful wizards. And I really like the Uruxi, the lizards in second edition. So that's a couple of real Pathfindery things that I would love to play. I want to play more second edition. I've got so many builds. Well, funnily enough, actually, another question that has come from Stu. How do you come up with the episode titles? They are very funny. Sometimes really easily. Sometimes it takes absolutely ages. And you can't really put a placeholder thing in because it's actually really hard to change episode titles in Podbean because you then have to go through and change the URL that it generates for the episode. Otherwise, it messes up all your social shares. So really, you don't upload the episode until you know what your title is. So I spend a lot of time coming up with puns. I spend a lot of time on like IMDb or scrolling through Spotify or something like that, trying to find like song titles to come up with pun names for. Some of them just jump right out. Some of them are really obvious. and some of them are just I'm very proud of, and sometimes I bounce them off other people and come up with ideas. There are a couple of rules, like if we come up with an episode title in the episode, like sometimes we'll come up with a really good joke and we'll be like, haha, episode title. I never actually end up using that for the episode title, because I always kind of feel like if we've done it in the episode, then that joke's got to laugh. So putting it as the episode title, you're doing the same joke twice. So it's a chance to do another laugh and have another joke somewhere else. So I try and do something different for that. And I try never to have a spoiler. Certainly for the episode, sometimes they can hint at stuff that's happened earlier on. Maybe Dial M for Murdered gave a little bit away as to what had happened in the previous episode. But I just really enjoyed that pun, so I kind of had to put that one in.
I think it's fair.
All right, what do we got left? Find us a few more questions, and then we'll get out of here.
Who would play the Danger Club and some of the significant NPCs in the Netflix version of the DCP?
We always try to talk about castings in it, don't we? I think my favourite one still was Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul as Chappie LaRue. That was just one I could really envision.
Just a tiny version of him.
With a French accent. I just absolutely loved. I thought that was a really nice one, and he'd be a hell of a get. Who would play Velda?
He's getting a bit old for it now, but maybe young Steve Buscemi be quite a good call.
I'd say that, yeah.
Yeah, somebody along that ilk. I mean, I don't know who'd play Shania or some of the other characters.
No one can play Shania Ray.
No one can play Shania. It's the part that's kicked around Hollywood for years and years, and no one can take it on. I think that's the thing. So I think in sort of conclusion, the future is looking bright for the Danger Club, despite all the ongoing crises and things.
Do we want to talk a little bit about what the plan is for what we're going to do to keep this show going?
I think we could. Candice did ask this, and I thought, it'd be a nice way to finish off to say how we're going to manage recordings going forward if the lockdown continues.
Okay.
Is it going to have a negative impact on the podcast, or are you optimistic that you can overcome any obstacles? And to continue delivering the top quality content we need right now. Thank you so much, Candice. I'm glad you think that.
Bless you, Candice.
What do you think, Dan?
She's just saying that because I'm giving her a level up in Starfinder when we play tomorrow. So yeah, the plan is we are going to keep going through all of this. I'm not 100% sure exactly how we do it just yet. There are different podcasts that are coming up with different ways of doing it. Ones that record remotely obviously are still recording remotely. Some shows are pausing their main campaign and doing sort of backup stories for a little while they do remotely, so that the audio quality is similar. The way we're running, we have got, I think, another 6-7 weeks of episodes already recorded in the studio that we can put out. That's not including the D&D special, which will come out on Wednesdays. The main shows still keep coming out on Mondays. Once we're there, we're going to run out before the quarantine's over, almost certainly. But we're going to look into doing some remote recording. We're going to keep putting something out every Monday until this is over, until we can be back in the studio and we can bring you this story. Whether we keep doing the Danger Club podcast main story every single Monday, recording it remotely and putting it out, maybe we do that. Colin is magic on the editing. Like Colin can make really bad audio sound great. It will sound better than this episode will, because I'm editing this one. Or whether we do a new campaign and we do like we play something else for a few weeks. We'd love to hear your ideas if you want to sound off and tell us what you think we should do. But we're going to keep bringing you an episode every week until we're back in the studio, and then we'll be right back on it.
Well, I think that brings us to a close of I'd say a very successful DMQs. The first one we've ever done remotely. Thank you so much to our resident Dungeon Master, Dan.
Yay!
Without this, it couldn't have taken place, and not getting too soppy, but it was Dan who started our original D&D campaign all those years ago, and who employed us at a certain London attraction, which brought us all together in the first place. And there is no one more passionately committed to this project than Dan. So thank you so much for your continuing efforts. Thank you for coming up with all the great stories that you do, for the great DMing. It's challenging at times, especially with us. Thank you so much, Dangerlings. Somebody's just put up a thank you, Blinded Sphinx. That's great.
Oh my God. This has been so much fun for everyone coming in live.
It's been so much fun, and it's so nice to do something where we can actually get your feedback and speak to you directly. It's like you're here in the room with us. And honestly, my second huge thanks goes out to you guys, because without you, then we just wouldn't be doing this podcast. And we really, really do. I know we we're quite effusive with our praise, but we all mean it. We think you are the best, and it makes all of our hearts glad, especially in these tough times, to know that we've got such a wonderful, wonderful group of listeners who support this show. So thank you so much. Doesn't need to be said. Tell your friends. We're on all the major platforms. Keep coming up with your wonderful content. Keep sending us your questions. If you've got any ideas of what you'd like to hear from the Danger Club in these troubled times, do shout them out. Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to do something where we get some real interaction going.
We will do our best to make them happen. We really will.
This has been James Lockhart of the Danger Club podcast. Thanks for listening, guys. Stay safe out there. Follow government guidelines. Keep washing your hands. And we're all going to get through this together the Danger Club way. Thanks, guys. Sleep well.
Bye.